Today we're building a home server. About 1 year ago, I discovered self-hosting. Now, self-hosting is amazing because I can use it to create a photo backup storage like iCloud or Google Photos. I can use it to create a Windows file share that I can easily move files between different computers on my network. And I can also host my own media collection, which is basically a backup of all my DVDs that I can use to stream it just like Netflix. When you start getting into media streaming or media, digital rights and that kind of thing, it can get a little so make sure you do your due diligence and do some research on that before you start just going crazy, you know what I mean? I have two 12 terabyte hard drives that are running in RAID, and they're just basically mirroring each other, which gives me a little bit of data redundancy, which is another huge benefit to having a network attached storage, which is a server. Basically, I'm running TrueNAS, which is I believe an open source, I might be wrong on that, operating system that you can use it's super easy. You can just install apps on it, just like basically any app. You just hit download, then it starts running. You kind of set it up. You have to do a little bit of configuring, but it's really not too hard to figure out. And I have had this server running in the past, but what I didn't have was a good case for it. So today we're going to be putting all the guts that I have into a server case, which should be really slick and really nice, and it will offer a lot of expandability for the future. So let's get into it. So here's pretty much everything. We have the server case right here. The first question is, where are we going to mount this all in one? Because there's not a super obvious spot to me. I could take off the CPU cooler for now to make everything easier, but I don't really feel like repasting it right now. No, looks like we're in business. Alright, in that case, the server case is designed, for airflow in the front and the back, not really on the sides because usually there's a wall there. So in my situation, where I'm not going to have too much going really, it's not getting rack mounted, so I can do whatever. Do I try to just go to the side of the case somewhere? Or do I try to mount it like this? Should I go to the back where those CPU fans are? Alright, so there's, honestly, this is like the perfect situation for a push-pull air fan cooler, the kind that pulls it through, because it would follow the flow of the case. In my situation, I don't know. Let me see what we got here. Oh, the power supply is gonna have to go right there. This is getting tighter by the second. Now you guys can see what's going on a little better. We need some screws. That's what we need. Alright, found some screws. While I'm working on screwing in this motherboard, let me tell you a little bit about it. It is an Asus Rampage 4 Extreme, which is an awesome retro gaming motherboard that is based on the extended ATX platform. It's got a ton of PCIe ports and SATA connections, and it makes it a good option for a home server. You could really use any old computer, but this one just happens to work pretty well. It has an Intel i7 3930K in it, which is a 6-core 12-thread CPU, which is kind of the highest core count in the consumer desktop CPUs of this generation. It's good to have multiple cores so you can delegate different apps and processes or Docker containers or whatever. For the RAM, I have 8 sticks of 8GB DDR3, which is like just the generation of the RAM. It's overclocked to a whopping 2133 megahertz. RAM's another good thing to have a lot of because that's another thing that you have to allocate to different apps. Alright, we got the power supply in. That was pretty uneventful. Now we're moving on to these hard drives, trying to get them in these little caddies, which are pretty nifty. Show you here in a second. So kind of just sits in there like that, and then we got our SATA connection there. These are Seagate 12 terabyte Barracuda Pros. I bought these recertified from maybe Amazon, either Amazon or eBay, I don't remember, but they work great so far. I run them just in a mirror RAID configuration. So I have 12 terabytes of total pool on my TrueNAS setup. Alright, so there's one drive installed right there. I think I'll do the next one. I only have 2 drives, so I'll probably just go down one. I got room for, looks like 8 full-sized hard drives, which is plenty of room for me. This guy, pretty easy, really. And then we'll slide this last one in. Oh, I do also have one more boot drive, but that's just a 2.5-inch SSD. And this is just a cheap Patriot 128GB, just enough to run TrueNAS off of. But we'll worry about him in a little bit later. I think next we want to start worrying about our power connections. Running a Corsair RM750E, which is plenty of power for this setup. I want to say this CPU is maybe 150 watts, and then I'm just running 2 small Quadro NVIDIA GPUs. One is for actually running the graphics of the server itself, because the K series CPUs don't have an integrated GPU, so you have to run that. And then we also have one for transcoding video that's allocated to Jellyfin. So I'm going to plug in our motherboard connections here. Alright, and then we've got our 20 pin or whatever this is, main motherboard power. And these are always a little stiff. There we go. One downside to running like a server case like this, I guess, would be cable management, because there's not really anywhere to hide the cables other than just having them in the same cavity as the CPU itself. So we'll do what we can, but it's not going to be the most aesthetic setup by any means. At the end of the day, as long as everything has power, it's good, yeah? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. The CPU coolers, I'm liking it less and less. Might have to go. It's just like directly in the way. Whereas a cool little push-pull style would just, yeah, that would make it so much easier, to be honest. Alright, we're getting there. We got our motherboard power in. Here's our USB 3.0. I think it's 3.0. I don't know. It's for the front header on the case. As you can see, I'm just working around this all-in-one for now. And then I have a hard drive fan plugged in over here. I was able to sneak one little zip tie in right here to try to keep some of those power cables off the board a little bit. But hey, it is what it be. Alright, and here are pin out for our front header here. We got hard drive LED, NIC LEDs, network interface LEDs, I guess. Power switch, reset switch, and then power LED. So let's see what we got on this thing. We know we have a power switch. A little better. Oh, she's not light. Now what I'm trying to do is get these data connections. This motherboard actually has 8 SATA ports right on the motherboard, so I don't even need a PCI like adapter. But if I did need a PCI adapter, I have a bunch of options for that as well. That's kind of like what makes this nice to use as a server, is it's this old gaming motherboard, but it has like a ton of inputs and outputs because it's like older, but top of the line older stuff, you know what I mean? So these SATA connections are, oh man, this wiring is so sad. It's making me sad. Alright, I'm kind of sketched out by this one. It's not clicking. So let me see what else I got. Oh shoot, I got this super sick little harness. Should I try to use this? It's not like it's gonna help, but it's pretty cool. I have it. They're pretty slick. Pretty slick. Pretty slick. If I had to say, I'd say they're pretty slick. Okay. Now, to my knowledge, we only need GPUs now, which don't have any connection, any additional power on these little guys. Okay, guys. Okay. Yeah. It's a little messy. I know. But there's everything. It should be all hooked up, so I'm going to get some power into it and an internet connection, and then we'll see if it boots. Okay. Alright. I got power hooked up. I got network hooked up. I got keyboard. Got a monitor hooked up. So this is the moment of truth. I have not tried it at all. It's probably something that's not hooked up right. Okay, there are buttons. There are lights turning on. Might have to run off of the other GPU. It looks like it's on, so fans aren't spinning though. Let me try this. I'm gonna unplug everything but the power switch just in case here. Okay. So now fans are spinning. The only thing I did different was unplugging the LED indicators and other things that are plugged into the front panel header. I hear fluid, which is good. A little pump cycling. Yeah, it's doing stuff. Nothing showing yet. Maybe I'll go back to this GPU again. See what happens. Alright guys, we got it to boot up. Basically, I took out the Quadro 4000 and I just left the P600 in on this first slot, and that worked. So not sure necessarily why, but we're gonna try to get into the BIOS here. If I can get my keyboard to work. Alright, so now we can mess around with our fans and stuff. So I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds on this one. I just want to see if we can boot it up at all. I'm just going to run a normal overclock profile, but I do want to enable XMP. And I'm going to run the 2133 profile on the RAM. And then I think there's a couple things I also need to do in boot maybe. I think I need to make sure secure boot's off. Oh yes, CSM. I think we need to disable this if I remember correctly. And then secure boot, we are running another OS, not Windows. And then boot option, it shows as the SATA SSD, which has TrueNAS loaded on it, and then it's also showing that as the only boot option. So we will try that real quick and see how it goes. All right, here we go. It's booting up. All right, here we go. So now we should be able to get into the web interface. I'm not like doing screen record and all that stuff, but just wanted to show you guys that it is working. So as you can see, we've got the server up and running. It is going beautifully now. I do need to figure out the CPU cooler. I probably just need to get an air cooler on that thing, and I also maybe need to do a little cable management. I'm not sure, but yeah. This is a pretty simple video, but it is one of the projects that I'm working on. I am not going to always be doing a whole lot of computer stuff. I know that I'm not the most educated on it, but I do have a lot of fun. It's super fun to build a computer, get the parts together, you put them together, and then you boot it up. It's a really fun experience that I would definitely recommend if you haven't tried it. And you can literally just go to Goodwill or Facebook Marketplace and just, you know, buy some old stuff and just mess around with it and have some fun. Not all the videos on this channel are going to be like computery electronics related, but it is definitely one of the areas where I have different projects, and that is really the premise of this channel, is that I'm kind of a guy with just too many projects. So this is one of them, honestly. But once it's up and running, it's really hands-free, and I just wanted to share that with you guys. So I appreciate you watching, and if you want to see any of my other projects, then check out my channel. Thank you.